Good afternoon. I'm Mark Skorka, president of Opera America, and I'm delighted that you're joining us today to hear about the San Diego Opera hack. I'm here at the National Opera Center in the library that was dedicated by an anonymous donor to Artis Kranick. She was the great general director of the Lyric Opera of Chicago until 1996. She was a prior board chair of Opera America and one of my mentors early in my career. So it's a real honor to be in her library at the Opera Center in New York. I'm also here at the Opera Center because we are at the very beginning of a pre-trial, partial reopening of the Opera Center. We are open only for recordings. It's only a couple of days a week. And during the recording sessions, we have one artist and one pianist graciously, spaciously arranged in the recital hall. And we're just delighted that artists are back in the National Opera Center. So although we'll hear more good news during Good News Friday, this Friday at 4:30, the fact that there are artists in the Opera Center is good news all on its own. We have more good news today, as we do hear from leaders of San Diego Opera about the impact of an investment that was made through an Opera America Innovation Grant. The innovation grants, as you know, are supported generously by the Ann and Gordon Getty Foundation. One of the things that we emphasize with our innovation grants is that not every applicant company will benefit from a grant directly, but we all benefit indirectly from these grants because of what we learn from them, the lessons we're able to derive, the new practices, perhaps the new technologies that will improve the entire industry and not just the grant recipient. Again, today's subject is the opera hack that was funded through San Diego Opera. Now, as it's described in the promotion of this webinar, it says that in 2019, San Diego Opera partnered with Microsoft to bring together experts from professional opera and theater companies, tech companies, prominent university engineers and faculty to discover whether there were new ways that technology could advance, improve, or strengthen the opera enterprise. 40 applications were submitted and only 16 proposals were accepted to participate in the hackathon. And from that, there were 3 winning projects, which together were awarded $40,000. Now, to tell us more about the hackathon, the advisory panel, the process of developing this, I'm delighted to welcome the 2 leaders from San Diego Opera who were the brains behind the operation, General Director David Bennett and the coordinator of the hackathon, Angel Mannion. David and Angel, welcome to the webinar and thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you very much, Mark. Great to be here.
Yeah, thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much. And let me start with the basics because I think of myself a lot at Opera America as a translator, where there are concepts that we try to translate for the benefit of our members. What is a hackathon?
You know, that's a really good question, Mark, because, you know, in the world of opera, we do rely upon super titles a lot, right? So there's a lot of language in the world of hackathons that maybe many of us are not familiar with. But I think in its larger sense, a hackathon is really an innovation or ideation summit. And one of the features of it is a constraint of time. So over a short period of time, you bring innovative thinkers together and see what develops. That's really the large picture. Angel, you might want to elaborate a little further.
Sure, yeah. In the tech world, often a company will hold an event where they propose a problem that they want to solve and bring minds together. And the winning idea from that sometimes will lead to that person getting a job with that specific company, or it's just trying to innovate with the field within whatever they're trying to do. So with us, we were like, we want to come up with new ways to use technology within opera, and that can be scope of anything. That can be in 3D printing, that can be in, David often says that technology evolves around time. So like hammer and nails are technology, but now we have different types of technology, right, that we don't often explore enough in opera. So when we would often hear people complaining about opera not being innovative within our field, we were like, this is a great opportunity to just start discussions around how that can start to happen. So about 200 people applied for this. We accepted, we narrowed that field down to 40, like you said. Over the course of 2 days last July, applicants, we had a brain trust working together, and they together submitted 16 proposals. And then our advisory panel, who we will introduce pretty soon, came together to pick their favorite ideas. And with those 3 winning ideas, we dispersed $40,000 to these projects that you will see.
Let me ask, were you trying to solve a particular problem in putting together this hackathon, or were you really just casting a wide net to see what kinds of ideas were out there?
Casting a wide net, definitely. We didn't pose specific problems to the participants in our call to have people participate. I did give them a sort of a framing device on day 1 if they chose to, and it was around a concept of an AIDA production that we were facing. Some of them chose to use that as part of a framing device for their response, but it was really more about letting them, the people in the room, who many of the participants were people that worked in the field of opera, composers, librettists, designers, ideate about challenges, and then letting people that think in technology help them address those challenges.
Is San Diego a kind of natural place to do this? Is it in the ether in San Diego?
It very much is. So San Diego's largest industry is still military. You know, we're a very big military town. There's frankly a lot of innovation that happens within the military industry. But our second largest industry is biotech, so technology in medical field. And there's a ton of innovation happening there, of course. And then we have a sort of a burgeoning other level of technology, including Microsoft, and Disney has an office here now with us in San Diego. So there are various levels of innovation happening in a variety of forms of technology. And we also have 3 very, very prominent engineering schools: University of San Diego State University and University of San Diego, that all, I think, really foster.
Mm-hmm. Now, I noticed in the material that Microsoft has played a role in this. And you know, I don't know of another opera company that has support or participation from Microsoft. What's their role in the hackathon?
Angel, why don't you talk about that?
Sure, yeah. About 2 years ago, I met one of our advisory panels, Matt Whitcamp, which we will introduce also. He's the one that helped me plan this hackathon, and he had a connection through Microsoft. And so with meeting with them in, Microsoft has an office, or a store, sorry, in our Fashion Valley, and they have community development events. And so when I approached them about this hackathon, they offered their corporate office in La Jolla. So they supplied the space for our hackathon, they supplied materials, they did catering for us. They were just basically like, whatever you need in order to host this event, we'll help you. And then let's just see what comes out of it later.
That's great.
Yeah.
And how did you recruit, determine, shape the advisory panel?
Oh, that's a great question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Basically, I just did a call with everybody within opera and technology within San Diego that I knew. I said, hey, we're starting this awesome project. Who would you recommend locally to help with it? So 3 of our advisory panelists are from San Diego State, which I went there. So we looked for someone from sound design. We looked for someone that could help with 3D printing. We looked for someone that could help with virtual reality. And then we also were looking for people that worked within opera that also had technology backgrounds. And that's where Vita and David Adamore came in.
Great. Do you want to introduce us to some of the advisory panel members?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. So we've got joining us is Anne E. McMills, who is the head of lighting design at San Diego State University. Matt Whitcamp, who is the CEO of his own company called Campfire Studios. Charles Murdoch Lucas, who is the head of scenic design and integrated media at San Diego State University. And Vita Sikun, who is a production designer and co-founder of Glimmer.
Great. Great to see you all, and thanks so much for being with us today for the webinar. you help decide which people, which proposals got into the inner circle of this activity. And Matt, I'm kind of curious to hear from you. What characterized the successful projects in terms of moving forward?
Yeah, really, we were looking for projects that were, we went in knowing that there were certain issues that we were trying to solve, but again, casting a wide net. And so the projects that were selected were oftentimes looking at where we could provide the most impact with lower levels of effort, kind of the low-hanging fruit type of approach. And also our approach with the hackathon is looking at the talent pool that we had basically collected from all the submissions and applicants that joined the event, and marrying up the technologists and problem solvers with creatives who, the subject matter experts to, really have some projects that were really promising and excited to learn more about today.
So you put together teams that would work together at the hackathon. Were people working together who had never met one another?
Correct. So we didn't put together the teams. We let the teams form somewhat organically. At the beginning of the event, we had some presentations on, potential projects. People would pitch ideas. We also, we took an agile approach to the event itself, where we had people put up different skill sets on a big, broad board so that we could understand, okay, who has expertise in what areas, so that people could quickly identify those people and, make connections. And, and from that, we saw some groups form pretty organically.
Wow, that's fantastic. And I'm glad to see David Adam Moore come onto the screen here, because I was so interested. I know you as a performer. I've seen you from coast to coast, north to south on stages, alone and in company of other casts. What are you doing here at this hackathon? How has it been for you as a singer?
As a singer, it's been very interesting because I was one of just a handful of singers there, and so we got to offer a lot of input in terms of how the voice works, how acoustics work, etc. As a digital media artist, I was absolutely ecstatic because I was in this room full of really high-level technical artists and other creative technologists. And so for me, actually for Vita and I both, it sparked this whole new journey into learning about what the possibilities of XR and other sorts of digitally based media are.
Well, we have a lot to learn, and how nice that you have this one career as a wonderful baritone, this other career as a technologist. I celebrate the variety. That's absolutely terrific. Now, I know that we're on I could talk to these wonderful people all day. I know that we're on a schedule here for the program. Are we going to watch the videos next, Angel?
We are. I also wanted to introduce the other advisory panel members that just joined us too. So we have got Dr. Chris Warren, who is the Associate Professor of Digital Composition and Sound Design, who helped me recruit Ann McMills and Murdoch from San Diego State. We've also got Ryan Hunt, who's a lead software engineer from Disney Interactive Studios, and David Adamore, who's a baritone media artist and co-founder of Glimmer as well, and Victoria Robertson, soprano and founder of World Travel VR, who is also a member of the Opera Map team that you'll hear from later.
This is such a brain trust. I'll ask at the end whether you all stay in touch with one another for the benefit of the world, because you're just an incredible collection of experts. But more on that.
Angel, we're all best friends.
Set up the videos.
Yeah. Can we set up the videos? So first, go ahead.
Q1 OpenShow video, go. Welcome to OpenShow, getting us all on the same page. OpenShow helps streamline the rehearsal process and also creates new possibilities. Score following and optical cueing make it easy to stay in sync. Stage effects can react to sound. Uncompressed audio networking lets us work, while physically distant, on both in-person and online performances. It's hard to get everyone on the same page quickly in an opera production, especially when score notation and timing is so musically nuanced and specific. Stage managing an opera is a uniquely tough job that requires calling out cues to ASMs, lighting, projection, camera and audio operators, and musicians, all in close synchronization with the orchestra and singers. This must all be done while the stage manager also deals with whatever unforeseen problems arise. OpenShow software can partially or completely take over the task of tracking the live performance and can throw routine cues to humans and machines automatically. What's more, cues may react to details of the singer's delivery. By helping facilitate, OpenShow also makes it possible for smaller productions to streamline their processes and achieve technical sophistication not otherwise possible. By combining scores, cue sheets, show bibles, and other production documents into a single collaborative project file, OpenShow makes it possible for opera companies to easily archive and distribute opera productions, potentially saving days off of remount time. There has never been a single hub where all of the systems at play in a production have ever been able to sync up and be seen together. Now, there is OpenShow. Imagine the possibilities for performers, designers, directors, and opera companies, from archiving to writing cues between continents. Like an airplane on autopilot, OpenShow tracks timing and manages cues in the background. This allows stage management teams, the heart of any great opera, to monitor the production and handle emergencies without concern about missing a cue. OpenShow doesn't replace the stage manager. Instead, OpenShow is a tool. It keeps the show running while the stage manager oversees and executes whatever matters most. OpenShow can augment or even someday replace the large paper show bibles currently used for archiving and work with an online document where customizable viewing shows production team members, from assistant directors to sound engineers, what they individually need to see at any point in the score. Scofo, a custom-developed score following system, tracks the performance and automatically moves through cues. To use Scofo, we simply record the instrumental or vocal part we want to track and map it to the score. Once this is done, a live input can be used to track the current position in the score. Scofo can be switched on or off, allowing fully automated cue firing or limiting it to isolated segments. In addition, a separate score following system called Cue Flip reads coded images printed on the conductor's score or tabs to keep OpenShow on the currently open page. Like Scofo, Cue Flip can be switched on or off, used by itself or in combination with Scofo as a backup. The OpenShow user interface shows timelines and cues in custom-defined views to all members of the artistic team and crew, from costume to sound designers to ASMs and singers waiting backstage. At the top of the interface, the stage manager can start or stop movement through the score, toggle score following on or off, and jump to different measures. Underneath the score viewer, cue timelines show individual lanes for each category of cues, such as lighting, sound, and projection. Cues are displayed in the timeline according to their position and duration. By clicking on the cue timeline, users can create new cues and edit parameters for existing ones. Beyond its stage management functionality, OpenShow offers new possibilities to sound, lighting, and projection designers as well by introducing sound-reactive cues that are affected by real-time variables like tempo, pitch, or amplitude. For example, a dynamic lighting cue can be mapped to the changing amplitude of a microphone input to modulate the brightness of a light in response to changes in a singer's dynamics. Additionally, OpenShow allows production teams to rehearse and set cues both remotely and in person. QuackTrip, a custom-developed back-end system for audio and data transmission, enables performers and production teams to send and receive low-latency, uncompressed audio back and forth over the internet. If and then a show moves into a physical space, the team can continue using the same OpenShow project to easily set all of their cues, notes, and other data in the new space. As a proof of concept, we've put together a short excerpt from Act 3 of Alban Berg's Wojciech, performed by Jonathan Nussman. Q2 demo, go!
Marie, für eine rote Schnur um den Hals. Hast dir das rote Halsband verdient, wie die Ohrringlein mit deiner Sünd. Was hängen dir die schwarze Haare so wild? Sie werden nach mir suchen, das Messer verrät mich, da ist. So, da hinunter, es taucht im dunklen Wasser wie ein Stein. Aber der Mond verrät mich, der Mond ist blutig. Will denn die ganze Welt es aufplaudern?
OpenShow is the brainchild of software engineers Miller Puckett and Todd Anderson, composers Brian Jacobs and Martine Galveau, and myself, director Kate Bergstrom. We'd like to thank Opera America and Opera Hack for making this first developmental moment for OpenShow possible. We now seek more opportunities to develop OpenShow. We'd like to hear from opera companies who can use our tools, first while developing staging ideas remotely, and later once we can meet in person on a physical stage. Using OpenShow, designers and directors can create more nuanced and reactive lighting and staging concepts. Companies can save time and money by shaving days off of tech and more easily remount shows and archive their work. OpenShow, getting us all on the same page.
Becoming is an operatic VR experience based on a Persian poem by Maulana Rumi. While the piece is a major artistic endeavor, it also showcases a number of key technologies and streaming techniques for development of musical content which depend on high-quality audio. In the context of experiencing a musical work in VR, the quality of spatial audio is important not only for delivery of the music, but also for the establishment of the environment and definition of focal point of experience in time. Our system is capable of creating highly realistic spatial impressions and recreating the acoustics of the environment based on the virtual models in real time, using advanced multiprocessing ray tracing techniques. Audience members can be connected through the network. Please note that this text is being read live from a remote location, creating the impression that I am walking around you in your virtual world. Haptic feedback technology provides human interaction cues as well as experiential stimulus. The audience experiences visual, auditory, and tactile impressions which are partly curated and partly generated interactively in response to the player's actions. The Rumi poem describes 7 stages of evolution on Earth. For this demo, we present examples of 2 of the worlds of the piece. The presented volumetric video capture will be a companion to the audience member throughout the experience. final version of the Commit, with all 7 stages completed, will be released for free on Steam as a reference for the application of the VR technologies and strategies used in this piece. Additionally, we will release the source code of the game portion of the application as a reference designed for compute shaders, dynamic audio across multiple software audio systems, and other major elements of its design.
Well, that was absolutely extraordinary. And it is so reassuring to know that while we are in this performance hiatus, that this kind of creativity is going on and pointing us to the future of opera. It's absolutely inspiring. Now, I know we're going to talk with the creators of these 3 projects, and I think we're starting with Opera Map. Is that correct, Angel?
Yes, sir.
Great. And who are we welcoming onto the screen?
So on screen, we will have Emily Wells, the Senior Producing Manager of Houston Grand Opera. Victoria Robertson, soprano, founder of World Travel VR, who is also a member of our Opera Half team. And I believe that's it today, correct? Anne Hyatt is also a member of the Opera Map team, General Managing Director of Opera on Tap, but I don't believe she's joining us today.
We see Anne Hyatt, anytime there's something creative going on, Anne Hyatt has her fingers in it. She's just remarkable. But how wonderful to meet Emily and Victoria. Thank you for being here. And your video made me take my quill pen and inkwell and just throw it out the window onto 7th Avenue. What is 360-degree photogrammetry? And I assume we saw it, but what is it?
So photogrammetry is a method of scanning and gathering all of the data, the visual data that you would see in a real space, and putting it together, knitting it together, if you will, so that you have this sort of virtual, almost, for those of you that are gamers, it's kind of like a video game world that you can walk around freely. So real estate companies are starting to use this technology now for a walkthrough of a new home or condo or something like that. But it does, through our partner Anomalies, we're able to take that data and expand it into a walkthrough world.
You know, it's so funny that you mentioned real estate, because I was thinking, wow, you could decorate your home this way, figuring out where the sofa goes or the chair goes and the light from a particular lamp. So you've already referenced that other utilization of it.
Absolutely.
When it comes to opera, what problem, if you will, what problem were you seeking to solve with this?
So there's a few things that Opera Map will help companies address, and that is productions fitting into their space. Oftentimes, opera companies from different sides of the country or in Europe are sharing a production, and maybe not all of the physical needs of that production will be met by that theater space. And in fact, I think David was talking, we were sitting and talking about the production of Aida and how much of it was going to be able to fit and what they were going to be able to use. And that kind of prompted us, our team, to really think about space, how it's used, how we can make that process more efficient, not only on the load-in process, but if you're not renting the entirety of a set, you're saving on shipping costs on bringing that production to your theater. So it's just kind of a lot of different ideas coming together in one platform.
Yeah. So a real test fit for a production before it ever packs and ships.
Absolutely. Victoria, do you want to add something?
Thank you, Emily. I just wanted to add that when we went into Opera Hack, there were a lot of very creative ideas of how to use technology in theater in a beautiful artistic way. And we were really at the mindset of, like you said earlier, Mark, what problems can we solve? And of course, with opera, we know it's time and money. So if you can solve the issue with cutting your expenses down and saving time, that's sort of what we wanted to do with Opera Map, because theater rental is very expensive, and the amount of tech time that happens within the physical theater space can be quite expensive and lengthy. So if anything that we can have done virtually in pre-production, and I'm meaning down to the inch with measurements, how things are going to load in, how things are going to not load in, so the the tech was also, and we've had some good meetings with Opera, Houston Grand Opera with their tech department about what issues they would like to solve, and we're trying to fold those into our product as well.
Now, I noticed that you used the Orpheum Theater in Omaha for this prototype. And why did you use the Orpheum?
The scan was excellent. It was an empty space. It gave us some of the features that Opera Map will allow you to do. It has that wall that's on the upstage side that you might want to be able to see something through and also navigate something around if you're having to work out a transition and things like that. And so it also was our partner did that scan. So it was the easiest for him to import into the software and apply a lot of the technology that Opera Map will allow companies to use.
Yeah, and we're fortunate, Mark, sorry to interrupt, but we have we've already started our beta testing. So we have about 5 or 6 companies that we're already working with that we've scanned, that we're starting to get it to the point where they can easily log in and start using our platform and giving us feedback.
You answered my next question, which is, are you working with other theaters to advance the program? And clearly you are. That's great.
Yes. University of Houston, actually, their theater department, they manage 3 spaces outside of the opera program at University of Houston. So they're up next for beta testing and scanning using their black box flexible space as well as their more traditional main stage proscenium.
In terms of the scanning, is there special hardware or software that you use for the photogrammetry scan?
Yeah, so well, we really weren't trying to reinvent the wheel too much, Mark, except for the part that we're able to bring other digital objects like set designs, whether they be new or already existing, designs to and props and different set pieces into our space. But as far as the actual scanning technology, we're not inventing that. We're not creating that from new. We're using other sources that are already available. We've been using, for example, the Matterport scanning, which is very popular right now in the real estate market. We're going to be working with Opera Santa Fe, so we're going to be using a different camera for that that's a bit better at scanning outdoor spaces. And you know, the point was really also to make a library. So ideally, we would like to have a source, you know, hopefully even partnering with you guys later on at Opera America, where, you know, people can type in the name of the theater that they want, especially in America to start with, and get the exact floor plan, get the exact scan they can look around, and have everything a little bit uniformed. Because right now, talking to San Diego theaters, we worked with them. You know, they have PDFs they send out, but, you know, some things are outdated and everybody has something a little bit different. And that might be hard for a tech department to really organize themselves and have all that exact information at their fingertips in a kind of a uniformed way. So it'd be great for us to be a library eventually. We don't only offer these interactive scanning, but we also just want to offer the information about
Victoria, as you say, it could be a tool for future co-productions, that a production is coming in from Europe, let's say, and let's see what other theaters it could fit in. So we might be able to contact them and ask them if they'd be interested, because we already know from the library that the production fits in the theater.
That's exactly right. And I think for new productions as well, HGO does a lot of world premieres, and finding spaces for those to be able to fit in, I think is equally as important. I'm a new work champion myself, so I always want to see a way for those new works to have further life after their initial premiere. So being able to showcase those through the platform as well is a goal.
And how do we learn more about this? Who do we contact?
So you can reach out to the team at info@operamap.com. And we have a landing page right now where we're actually in the process of rebranding. So that's going to be coming out in the next month or so with our new webpage and things like that. But for right now, info@operamap.com.
And one reason, Mark, why we're rebranding a bit is because we're using this as a launching pad to expand a little bit more to other industries like musical theater. And there's a lot of touring productions, and we think that this is going to be a really good tool for them as well to see the theaters in advance, and then eventually event spaces like concert tours when things open up again after COVID, hopefully.
That's just great. Congratulations. So happy to have you. We could continue going, but I'm on a time schedule, so I need to tune out on this one. But again, really kudos. It's fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it.
So now we are moving on to OpenShow. And who are we talking to, Angel, for this?
Yeah, so the OpenShow team consists of Kate Bergstrom, who is the theater director and an intermediate artist, Miller Puckett, who's creator of Max and Pure Data and professor of computer music at UC San Diego, composer and sound artist Brian Jacobs, assistant professor of code and liberal arts at the New School, Todd Anderson, and composer and percussionist Martin Galvao.
Wow, a great team, and one from the reaches from coast to coast. So welcome all. Kate, you and I were chatting a little bit before we went on screen. Again, what problem were you trying to solve in developing this very, very interesting platform?
That's a great question, Mark. So as a director, and as someone who's assisted operas before, as an assistant director, what I found cumbersome is the amount of different spaces I have to turn to understand what page I'm supposed to be on in terms of blocking sound, light, cues, cueing performers, where are we in the score, where's the composer in their specific document. And so for me, I thought, well, what would it be like if we had a hub both to easily facilitate newcomers into the opera world who might be directors and performers who aren't as adroit at that sort of interplay, but also for people like the brilliant stage managers I've worked with to have somewhere where they can literally see what page everyone is on, where you can see every cue from costume designs, or costume changes, to performers coming on and off, to where a composer can see where the conductor is in their score and what they're fixing and working on in a new opera. I really think that what I was trying to do, and what I think we're all trying to do, is continue to build a hub where everyone can be on the same page.
Now, are the other members of the team opera involved? Brian, Todd, Martin Miller, did you come to this project from an opera point of view, or was this all a new problem to you? Miller?
Well, I've been in small opera productions, like one or two singers at a time, but I've never been in a big one, in anything of this size even. So this is the sort of second toe I've dipped into this.
And I should say too, Mark, that Miller and Todd are extraordinary software engineers. Martine and Brian are extraordinary composers, all interested in opera, but really wanting to learn, as I did when I was a director jumping into opera, the different ways in which it takes a village to make a production come to life. So part of that was the learning.
Model of collaboration, so true. I mean, the world should learn from opera about how to collaborate. Todd, what is the software that the platform runs on?
Yeah, so this software, we're calling it the OpenShow editor. It's built using web technology, so it's using a JavaScript library called P5.js or processing to make stuff on the screen. But there's actually so it can run on your desktop or it can run in your browser. And basically what it's doing is it's communicating with other computers. Right now we've been testing it remotely, sending signals back and forth between New York and San Diego for the different parts of the system. But ideally you would have multiple systems set up. Right now it's just on computer, but in the future we'd want to develop it for phones and tablets as well. And it's communicating, there's a computer that'll be listening to the score and listening to the singer, determining the position, and then it'll be passing around the cue information and the timeline information. So up in the, by the lighting board, the lighting designer can have their own lighting specific view and be piping cues into the board. There can be a monitor up in on the side of the stage that'll mark entrances and have that same timeline. So we created this system for just like a bunch of different devices and computers to all be connected and share this same timing and position data, which in opera is always based on the score. So we decided this was a unique kind of way to orient something like this.
Kate, within the opera teamwork, who would own this in terms of making sure it happens, it's accurate, it's up to date, it's working? Where in the opera structure does management of this reside?
Sure. So that's a great question. And really what I would say is what it's doing ultimately, because personnel is a fixed resource, it's a tool that's expanding the amount that opera companies with different limitations on personnel can do. We in my opinion, we could have this software with the assistant director monitoring it and making sure all systems are go. It also really organically works in terms of taking a lighting operator's sort of like arena and making it shine. It can work also with someone running this hub and limiting the amount of hours that other personnel would have to spend coming in and doing certain jobs, because the hub would be doing it and helping them do it with them.
Mm-hmm. Are there any latency issues with the technology?
Yeah, so right now, I mean, we're having we got some latency when we're going in between New York and San Diego, which maybe you would expect. But Miller has developed a really great piece of low latency audio transmission software called Quacktrip, which sits on top of Jack, which is used for a lot of audio. So that's about as low latency as you can get with audio transmission. And the idea is once you don't have to actually go over the internet when you're transmitting all over a local network, it will be about as fast as any sort of communication through a cable can be.
Yes. Now, is this ready for application at an opera company, or are there still some more developmental steps?
Sure. So our next developmental steps are to make a mobile app and make it more easy and centralizable to import new operas into the systems, and also make it interoperable with other systems like QLab that operas are already using. Our next steps are going to be wanting to partner with a company to develop a piece and speak with and to the company itself and their different technicians, people who work with the company, to make sure that we are making the most useful tool possible. And then we'd also like to, as artists, sort of build a chamber piece with this tool. The other thing that we're building is, as the beautiful OperaMap team shared, we're building sort of this idea that if you have any PDF of a score, you can drop it in and the software will work with it, as long as that you can make a MIDI file that you can follow. So our next steps are to start getting in a practice space further and further together, and continue developing the interface for users.
Wow, there are lots of questions coming up in the chat room. So if people have questions, how do they ask them of you? Where do they get more information?
That's such a great question. We have a website, www.openshow.io, and we are all able to be contacted from that website. You will see all of our different information. You can absolutely reach out to us. I believe, Martine, there's also an email address.
Yep, that's info@openshow.io.
Great. We'd love to hear from you. We are absolutely open to doing demonstrations, talks, and further conversation. We want this to be the most useful tool possible, especially as it is for telematic opera, something that could help get people on the same page across the country.
Oh, this is just great. Thank you so much to the entire team. Really exciting. Look forward to hearing more about it. Thanks very much.
Mark.
Thank you.
And now we're going to talk about the last of the three, Becoming. Angel, who's going to be on screen with us?
Yeah, so the Becoming team consists of Shahrokh Yadagari, a director of Sonic Arts Research and Development at the Qualcomm Institute at UCSD, John Burnett, who's a sound artist and PhD candidate in music at UCSD, Jeremy Cooperstock, who is the professor of electrical and computer engineering at McGill University, Louis Pisha, who's a musician and PhD candidate in electrical engineering at UC San Diego, and Francesca Talenti, who is a director and designer.
Well, although we can't physically go across the Canadian border, I'm glad to know that this team is international. So I'm learning new words today. So every day is a day to build your vocabulary. What is haptic feedback, please?
Haptic feedback would be, for example, when you pick up a controller and when something happens, and when you touch something, you will get a feedback from there. And we're using various type of vibropixels to simulate either a connection with another user on the other side, or if you would be experiencing something, for example, touching water, it would give you a sensation. Jeremy, I don't know if you're connected and you want to say something about that as well. You're the expert on that.
I don't. Do we have Jeremy?
I see his. picture there, but perhaps he's not connected.
We may not be able to bring him on screen here. He got it. So we think Jeremy stepped away because he's not starting his video. So in what we saw, the excerpt that we saw of Becoming, is that the whole piece that's been created so far? Is that a short excerpt of what's been created? What is the piece that you've shared with us today?
You know, when in VR, the game changes. In game of the artistic game, it changes in a sense that you no longer create a sculpture such as film or even a piece on theater that you can control all its elements. Users can change their location, they can look around, and in this sense, audio plays a really important role, because if the proscenium before was defining the focus, if you could use lighting to tell the audience members what to look at and how to follow narrative, now they have their own choice of moving around, and it's the audio that will carry the narrative. Mm-hmm. I've always believed that, you know, almost in a lot of production, audio and music is the heart of the piece. And in opera, this is the most important combination of where we bring narrative and music together. And psychoacoustically, humans are so attuned to the voice that any little change and any insufficiencies in the voice would cause you to move away from that musical impression that you could get. So at the heart of this piece is this algorithm for spatialization that will allow you to define a space, kind of like you're designing the element, and then designing the piece, and you allow the users to interact with it. In that sense, we have actually developed a considerable amount of infrastructure that we weren't able to show everything. You know, 5 minutes, it's short, and we're hoping that this will actually be a piece around 30 minutes, 35 minutes, for that the audience members can interact with. And as we mentioned, you can also connect to other members over the network. And I got to give a shout out to Miller Puckett, because we are also using Quacktrip underneath our infrastructure to connect different locations together. The other element that this could be used for, as I mentioned, you can have multiple people in real time talking to each other with spatialized effect. The spatialized effect being that, for example, you have another actor sitting next to you, and we can create the impression and do the synthesis of how close they are to you or at what direction. So people could actually run lines with each other and rehearse, let's say, a piece together, almost feeling that they are really present there. So there is considerable amount of infrastructure that's been built, and this is just a preview of it. We're hoping that by the end of this year, we have the piece completed, and hopefully there'll be soon we all can get together and members can actually experience this piece in VR.
Well, and I wanted to ask you about the audience experience, because you did mention the word audience in the plural, audiences. And I'm wondering if the VR experience of Becoming is a solo, an individual experience, or whether there is a group dynamic to the audience experience.
Currently, we can have two players. We can connect two people connected with each other, talking over the network with the highest quality of connection with each other. And that's where also the haptic feedback comes from. They may have elements that once they, for example, bring their hands together, they have a feeling connected, or they could create sounds for each other. For example, if they touch the water, the other side will hear it. There is a sense of interaction. Eventually, we will have a group element that we can connect with each other. But for now, we are concentrating on connection of two audience members.
Is it your dream that those two people already know one another, or that those two people are meeting one another through the medium of Becoming?
Kind of like any other venue. When you go there, you may go with a person you know and enjoy it together, and you can interact with each other, or perhaps you meet somebody there and you can talk about your impressions of the piece.
Just fascinating. Now, in terms of the creation of it, who are, separate out for me the technologists from the artist creators, or are they all the same?
It's a great mixture, actually. This is, again, I give a shout out to Opera America, to San Diego Opera, to Angel, to Opera Hack. This experience of coming together in Opera Hack was truly fantastic. You know, we say we always look for creating a piece that is more than the sum of the parts. Already in Opera Hack, some of the parts were very great. The individuals there were really excellent. The gathering was very, very inspiring. And I always think in theater world, it's hard to do anything alone. It's all done collaboratively. And this piece was not really an exception. We had lots of talks together, all the members together, as like John Burnett is a composer, but also a fantastic technologist. Jeremy Cooperstock, who's been working with us on the haptic side, has a strong record working in music. Francesca Talenti, who's done the graphic designs, has been in conversation. Of course, everybody has been involved in the tech side as well as the music side. And Louis Pisha, who's another graduate student. He is an electrical engineering graduate student, but a fantastic composer and very involved in music. So it's hard to draw the line, and I think that's the exciting part.
It's spectacular. Opera creation isn't what it used to be. You know, I know how to play the piano. This is just fantastic to hear. And I found the emergence of the human form toward the end of the 5-minute excerpt that we saw absolutely haunting. It was just incredible to watch it take shape on the screen. Really a wonderful effect. Congratulations on that. We will certainly want to follow the development of the piece and want to experience it in VR the way we're not really doing today. We're just talking about it. We'll certainly want to experience it. And to the entire team, I just send best wishes for the rest of the work and can't wait to catch up with you down the road. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you.
Well, David and Angel, did Opera Hack 1 meet your expectations or exceed your expectations?
I absolutely exceeded my expectations. And I think, you know, you don't really know that until you're in the room with the people that are participating. And it's incredibly dynamic. I will say that the general director in me was a little afraid at the beginning of it because you had to wait for these things to emerge, and it took a little time for that to happen. But because we allowed that to have an organic state, I thought the outcome was fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and from a project manager perspective too, it was also a little bit of a nightmare planning of like, we don't know what necessarily we're looking for. But overall, I mean, yeah, any one of the participants that were a part of it could have been part of the advisory panel easily. Everybody brought an extreme level of experience and talent to that room. I mean, it was a very, very heartwarming space just to see everyone collaborative and wanting to work together and putting all of their egos at the door. Yeah, I mean, it was overall, it was just an incredible experience. And
Angel, were you on staff at San Diego Opera before all this began and just had this skill set and interest, or had this been something you've had in your background?
I have a small background in technology. I played a lot of video games growing up, and I've done some work in video game music. I have a lot of experience in recording. Prior to this, I was our social media manager for San Diego Opera and a backstage photographer. And so when David was talking about this idea at first, it was great because I went from being a singer on stage when I used to sing with a chorus to being more primarily backstage, that a whole light bulb went off of like, there's this whole backstage area and blue collar work of opera that does not necessarily get as much credit as I feel like it needs. So then leading into Opera Hack, seeing a lot of these proposals that came out were more surrounding how to innovate the production side of things rather than the presentation side of things that often gets most of the attention. So so us working together, both of us being performers and me being in technology a little bit, just sort of tied everything together.
Angel's being a tiny bit modest. So one of the reasons I was interested in Angel was he showed me a chorus that he had been directing, and I was asking him questions about it, and he'd created a business model where he was using a chorus for gaming. So it was thinking about a choral ensemble to be useful via the internet, via the virtual space. And so that's really the reason why I thought of him as the good candidate to run this project.
Fascinating. And David, as a general director, and this is a vocabulary and a set of concepts that you did not enter the space fluent in this material.
That's very true.
How has it been for you as a general director to sort of give up knowing the answers and just enter into the flow of this creativity?
Well, I attended most of the hack. And as I said at the beginning, there were moments where I felt like I had to try to step in to lead, and I had to actually be an observer. And it was actually a wonderful experience. It was incredibly creative, beautiful, I will say, to watch this thing become something and the teams to form. And by the end of the first day, pitching ideas to each other that then were developed very quickly. And you're right, I also didn't know what haptics were. So it's a wonderful experience. I will say that I neglected to mention one thing. While I saw the becoming presentation, you see that they were members of the Qualcomm Institute at UCSD. You asked me about innovation in our community. Clearly, Qualcomm is a name I should have mentioned. Qualcomm is the largest employer of technology in our community. And of course, we know they're very, very involved in 5G technology. It'll be interesting to see where that goes in the future.
Wow. Hack 2, what's happening and when is it taking place?
Well, we just thank you to Opera America. We're awarded Opera Hack Point 2. Angel, you might talk about the timeline of that, but yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. So Opera Hack 2.0 will happen next year and it'll be virtually. One of the things that we learned from this project was that we had so many people in the room, but we didn't give them necessarily problems to solve within Opera. And so we ended up sort of just creating problems to solve because we had an open-ended idea, which was fantastic and it worked well. However, this next year, we will be polling the industry for the top 10 top 10 problems within Opera that technology can help to solve.
It'll be hard to narrow it to 10.
What'd you say? Oh, absolutely, yeah. But we will narrow it down to 10 so that when we do have the event, that these people will have just concrete issues that they can put their attention to. And I think it'll just be really good research for the industry to have anyway. I think we often try to think of like, how can we use virtual reality within Opera? And do we really need to? I think this will just create an opportunity for Opera companies to partner with tech companies, because sometimes we just end up asking tech companies to say like, hey, can we work together? But this could be an opportunity where you actually have something concrete and you can bring to them and say, hey, we need help with this specific problem. And on that, this time, since we only have a year of funding, this last project was 2 years. And so the second year of funding was all dedicated to the R&D for the winning ideas. This next time around, we're only able to fund the best ideas themselves. So we're not going to fund the R&D part of it. So if there are any Opera companies or donors watching that want to partner with us or tech companies to make this happen, we are all open ears. We just want to, we're trying to innovate the industry and start conversations on how we can do that. So please reach out to us. We're open to any and all ideas to make things happen. And on that last note, on the website for operahack.org, we are hosting all the 16 proposals that were submitted last year, and they are all fantastic. And they also need funding for those to happen. So there's things from a new idea for costume wardrobe databasing. There's an idea for a sensory accessibility headset for those that are on the autistic spectrum. There are ideas for budgeting apps. There's a lot of creative ideas that need attention. So if you are looking for new ideas to fund or partner with tech companies, this is where to go. Yeah, we are open to any and all collaboration.
Angel, thank you. And David, so great to have you share this with us. As I say, the investment in one project benefits the entire field, and we're seeing that today. We're a few minutes over. I know there are a few closing slides. I'm going to say goodbye to everyone. Thank you all so much. some contact information coming up on the closing slides. We'll be in touch and follow your progress. Thanks so much.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Joining us. We'll see you at Good News Friday on Friday.